In the last hour, Iran has announced that it's closing the Strait of Hormuz again, less than 24 hours after declaring the waterway open. It says the United States must lift its blockade of Iranian ports before marine traffic can flow freely. The tensions placed a chokehold on the global economy, heavily restricting the movement of energy supplies worldwide. Iran says that from now on, only vessels with Revolutionary Guard approval will be allowed through the strait. On Friday, US President Donald Trump insisted that the US blockade on Iranian ships and ports would remain in place until a peace deal is reached. Iran's new restrictions come after a convoy of tankers was seen leaving the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. It was the first major movement in the waterway in 7 weeks. We're live this hour with our correspondent Tawhid Asadi in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Tawhid, Iran putting out a statement now saying that the strait has reverted to its previous state. What exactly does that mean?
Well, obviously, it's a very intricate situation, and we hear mixed messages from the Iranian side, seeing the developments on the ground, and it is impacted by actually the continuation of the blockade by the Americans, which is putting a certain amount of pressure. Latest, we received a statement from the Khatam al-Anbiya Joint Military Headquarters, a very strong message, and it says, the Islamic Republic of Iran, following previous agreements made in negotiations conducted in good faith, has agreed to the managed passage of a limited number of oil and commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Unfortunately, the Americans, with their repeated breaches of trust that are part of their history, continue their act of piracy and maritime theft under the pretext of so-called sanctions. For this reason, control over the Strait of Hormuz has reverted to its previous state, and this strategic waterway is under strict management and control by armed forces. It is stated that as long as the United States does not end complete freedom of movement for vessels from Iran to their destinations and back, the situation in the Strait of Hormuz will remain under strict control and will remain as it was before. This is a message that we heard from this military important sphere of the country, indicative of Iran's latest position when it comes to this geostrategically significant choke point. But we know all in all that we are dealing with an intricate situation in which there are different actors and factors at work. Speaking of Strait of Hormuz, we know that Iran is trying to use it as a point of leverage, as a point of pressure when it comes to actually the negotiations potentially ahead between Tehran and Washington. Also, previously we heard from Tehran that it's going to be open for commercial vessels. We've got this military officials talking to the state TV saying that it's not open for any military passage. Also, from the statements that we hear from Iran, it seems Tehran is planning to conduct a sort of new mechanism, a new regime of management over Strait of Hormuz. And on that, we have already heard about the plans to impose tariffs, the fees for actually ships trying to transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, it's going to put a certain amount of impact when it comes to global economy and when it comes to actually the energy market in particular. And obviously, there are other issues in that regard. First, we know that Abbas Araghchi, foreign minister of the country, previously said that this opening, however limited it is going to be confined to actually the period of ceasefire. And on that, we know that based on the previous agreement, we have about 4 days to finishing of the ceasefire. All in all, we have to keep waiting in this very intricate situation. The U.S. blockade continues. Iran is talking about further strict security measures, military actions over the Strait of Hormuz. They're saying that any passage should be with the green light of the IRGC Navy force. And this is the indicative of the very fact that the name of the game at this point, when it comes to Strait of Hormuz and when it comes to the entirety of the situation between Iran and the United States, is nothing but uncertainty.
All right. Tawhid Asadi reporting live there from Tehran. Many thanks indeed.